Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and today I'm going to highlight the Vampires JAWZ. This is their locking plier. This is number VT0037LP, or Vampire Tools number 3 7-inch locking pliers, and that's this guy right here. And what this is basically like the kind of the locking plier, or the trademarked vice grip, except it has the screw extraction tip, which is huge. This is really kind of a neat plier, and I'll go through a few of the features in just a sec, but I want to show you something. You want to watch a pair of pliers pay for themselves in one job, in 1 minute. Here it is. What I've got, this is a high-end bike wheel here off a racing mountain bike, probably an $8,000 bike. Large rotor, this is the front wheel, and it's held on with 6 torque screws. Now these get extremely hot, so it's not like you can leave a screw off or mis-torque them or something like that and expect the performance when this narrow rotor is smoking. But anyway, one of the came to me this way. One of the torque screws has been stripped. Somebody probably stuck an Allen wrench in there or something and tried to get it out of there and then played around, and you can see that thing, I mean, it's like crazy smooth in there. Now, prior to Vampliers, I would have probably just maybe tried to use a Dremel or a cutoff tool and cut a little notch in there and see if I could get some sort of a slotted screwdriver in there. And you got to be super careful because these are, I don't know, $300 hubs, and you don't want to mess up one of these, and you can't leave one of these out because then you'll have an unequal force surrounding it, so this will get hot and warp, and then the brakes won't work. But anyway, so I came up against this thing, got a hold of my Vampliers, and very carefully just set them right down on top of it. And look, I did that. I'm using 2 fingers here to rotate that. And I just loosened it. Almost can do it with my hand. Show you down here. And that was it. And then I can carefully unscrew it and replace it. Now I can also see that some of these others have a little bit of kind of scoring or marks in them, so whoever was playing this one might even be in need of replacing here. It looks a little bit rounded. These have to be exactly perfect, otherwise you're going to end up with serious braking problems, and you don't want that on your front wheel. But anyway, that one job, boom, right there, paid for themselves. But what we're going to work with today are these Vampire JAWZ. Now I do want to say that these were sent to me by the Vamplier company, and they were sent to me because I asked for them. When I had gotten these snap-on ones you saw the unboxing of, and I was working on a project where I had some really long screws and kind of a decking project, and sometimes these were sticking out, or there was going to be a lot of unscrewing, and you could do it. There's a small one here. It's a little hard to grab a hold of it, or a big one. And the idea was that, I could use this and turn and turn and turn, but it kept slipping, and I thought, why don't I take a pair of vice grips and drill my own hole and then see if I can, score it or something, and I could make a pair of Vampliers only in a vice grip that I could snap down onto it. Because the current problem with these is when you snap onto something like this, is even when it's on, these can just tip right over. So they work their way off until they finally snap off right on the end, even if they're really tight, because there's no vertical orientation in the blades here to hold on to something like that. And I thought about it, but before I went and started drilling a hole into my new snap-ons, I went online, and it turned out that Vampire Tools was already on top of this with this guy right here. And so I contacted somebody at Vampire Tools who originally had contacted me because I had done a couple of reviews on some of their tools, and they were just saying, hi, can we use it on social media and that kind of stuff. But anyway, I said, hey, could I get a pair of those to play with? See how they work. I'll put them on a video. And they said, sure. So here they are. I've been playing with them. And what I've got is a couple of demonstrations. One is I've already removed the top of this screw head right here just to show you. But if I clamp these on, oh, and by the way, one of the things is this has a turning, whatever these are called, the adjustment down here that's got a 4mm sock or 4mm hex in it. So I can crank it down if I want once it's on. You can add a little bit more oomph, just like that. But anyway, you see how tight that is? Whereas the snap-on just tipped over because there's no orientation. This is on rock solid. What that means is that I can just screw it in or screw it out quite easily. But you notice the point of rotation should be over the screw head. So this is using kind of a conventional design. It's absolutely wonderful. Now notice if you have a little trouble opening them, I could pop that, but for the video I'll show you I can just throw something in, loosen it, and pop them right off. Really nice. Milwaukee uses something similar that you can wedge a screwdriver blade in. Snap-on uses a larger, I think that's 1/4 inch, I believe, is what they use here. And Craftsman, and this old guy, you grab it with another pair of pliers. Anyway, same issue. But a couple of things. One, as I was using these, I found they work great, but the alignment here from the blades, this is the shaft right there. That's the angle. So coming straight up, right through here, is where the rotational point is. So it would be possible to redesign these and move everything over. You'd lose some of the effectiveness of these as just conventional locking jaw pliers, but they would be better extraction pliers. So a way to visualize this is let's take a look at it from the screws point of view. So I'm going to crank this onto my drill here. So there you go, and you can see how straight that is. You can't do that with any of the others. So here it is. So looking at it from the screws point of view, I'm going to hold the screw constant, point this at the camera here, right about there. So that's what the screw is sensing there. Or if I point it this way, you can see how far off it has to move. So what's happening as you're trying to rotate this thing is you're going way outside of the central point, and you're making a big circle around it. Some other tools have actually identified that and then tried to line things up. I know Leatherman in one of their multi-tools, they actually have the screwdriver, I think it's their out the front one, their screwdriver lined up with the handle rather than offset. So it requires this kind of precession around and around, and instead you can just spin it in your hand. So there's room for a screw extraction locking plier change here, but otherwise this also works, is fabulous as a conventional locking plier. Let's take a look at a few of these guys. Oh, by the way, it does have a locking jaw, or a cutting jaw right here. I was playing around with it, and it's pretty hard to get anything to cut. And as I was doing it, I grabbed a couple of others because I needed to make some cuts. And here's something I noticed. So I'll take this screw here. Here's Milwaukee's lineman, a little bonus this video. So there it is. I'll throw this bag over so you can watch what happens. I'm squeezing really hard. Almost nothing. It scored it a little bit. They didn't cut. Here's the Kleins. So I'll drop those on. Drop my bag over so you can kind of see. And then I can feel them kind of squeezing in slow. But they snapped it off. So even though these Milwaukees are nice and beefy and big, I couldn't cut that with them, but I could with this, with the Kleins. Anyway, let's take a closer look at some of these things. So the Vampire JAWZ has, it's JAWZ by the way, has this extra little mechanism right here that is absent on these. These are just directly riveted straight to the handle. This bridge here, which forms the this thing here that forms the kind of the cantilever mechanism that gives the grip and the locking mechanism. This has another piece here, and I noticed it was present on the Milwaukee as well, and I wondered if it was similar to their torque lock. You see that little piece there. It changes the rotational point and adds probably a much beefier and possibly more secure connection. You see that before you ever start. There it is on the Vampliers, but on the conventional it's absent, and of course on the kind of the vintage Craftsman it's also absent. So I'm trying to figure out how that really affects the performance, but it does seem to make a difference. You can see there's already some jaw movement before it ever intersects that last bit with the locking mechanism. So I'm wondering if it gives you greater jaw play before you start engaging the mechanism. So it might be that these can go wider. I've got to test that out. And then still have the same, or in other words, the jaws can be wider and still lock without an adjustment. But I'll play around and see. But anyway, so I think they scored big on this. I like the handles. This still is unbelievably slippery. When I kind of compare them to the Milwaukee, similar ideas. This does get in the way. That is pretty big. And this seems pretty solid. Very similar. But anyway, it works both as a locking plier, an exceptionally nice locking plier, and it also has that screw extraction, which right there, you know, is worth its weight in gold, I think. Being able to grab onto something and then just simply work it and work it and work it and work it, and you can let go. And that's where the huge advantage is over even the regular Vampliers, you know, because these will just fall off. And then if it loosens up, give it a little more tightening. So tremendous. If I try that with one of the others, try it with this Milwaukee, throw that on there. Whoops. Get that snug. Nope. Give these guys one more chance. It's always nice to use a snap-on tool. Get that on there. I'm gonna snug it up. This falls over a little better than the Milwaukee, but that makes it harder to use. You keep it up and pretty soon it'll pop right off. Now I used to use them trying to get them, you know, flush against something and spin it. That's probably all been there, but in reality, having the Vampliers, again, that is a tool, just like its buddies here, that will pay for itself. It's not that expensive, about half the price of that guy. Pay for itself in one use, in one job. So that is my take on these Vamplier tools, and I highly recommend them. And with that, Doc out.